It is 7 o'clock. We will call our meeting to order. May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have our land acknowledgement read by Director Egan.
On behalf of this board and the Cherry Creek School District, I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and Osheti-Shakowee people who stewarded it for generations. The Osheti-Shakowee includes 7 bands, so I would also like to recognize that over 40 additional tribal nations likely use this area for trade, ceremonies, and social gatherings.
Thank you. I call for a motion to approve the agenda for the March 11, 2024 regular Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Directors Allen.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Egan.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Knowles.
Aye. Motion carries. I call for a motion to approve the minutes at the February 12, 2024 Special Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Egan.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Knowles.
Aye.
Motion carries. I call for a motion to approve the minutes for the February 12, 2024 regular Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Egan.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Knowles.
Aye.
Motion carries. I call for a motion to approve the minutes for the February 23rd, 2024 Special Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Egan. Garland.
Aye.
Knowles.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, we will have reports from members of our board. Director Egan.
Good evening. Thanks to Sky Vista Middle School and Principal Shelley McCourt for hosting us, and to our safety, security, and technology teams preparing for these meetings. Congratulations are also in order to Ian Lopez, the Director of Safety and Security at Cherry Creek School District, for being named one of this year's K-12 Campus Safety Director finalists by the National Campus Safety Conference. Please join us at the Cherry Creek Schools Foundation Elevate Gala on March 28th. Tickets are currently on sale at the foundation. This event will feature student performances, a live and silent auction, and other ways to support Cherry Creek schools. The foundation Board of Directors is also grateful to be honored in the March donation drive being hosted by Overland and Smoky Hill feeder areas. Individually packaged snacks are accepted at schools in these feeders during March. The foundation is also a partner with Secor, providing mobile markets for families in need to receive grocery gift cards, household items, blankets, clothing, and more. The next 2 mobile markets will be held at Overland on March 6th and Smoky Hill on April 2nd. The district's monthly PASS meeting was held on February 21st at Smoky Hill High School. 4 students shared their stories at Smoky Hill, and the Cherry Creek School District Human Resources team presented a report on hiring and retention, including information on the strategic recruiting plan, state and national comparison data on hiring and retaining educators of color, and information gleaned from the STAY survey, climate survey, and exit surveys of educators of color. Please join us for the next PASS meeting on Wednesday, March 27th at Cherry Creek High School. It's Cherry Creek Reads Week. I am looking forward to my time in our district classrooms reading this year's feature book. I brought the book, Words of Wonder from Z to A by Zayla Avantgarde and Keisha Morris, featuring motivational words and asking, what words inspire you? Speaking of inspiration, it's National Women's History Month. Here's to all the women who have inspired me throughout my life, my friends, my mentors, and my family, especially my beautiful mother, precious daughter, and fierce late mother-in-law. My advice to young women is that you offer a unique perspective in the room. Nobody has your combination of upbringing, learned experiences, and mindset. Find your voice. Last week was Women in Construction Week, celebrating and promoting the role of women in the construction industry and in CCIC's infrastructure engineering pathway. And it was also Social Worker Appreciation Week. Let's honor the compassion and commitment of our school social workers who do so much for our students and their families. Last month, I mentioned that the Colorado General Assembly is currently in session, and while the legislative session is nearly half over now, school finance was just introduced. At this point, the legislature has followed through on its promise to eliminate the budget stabilization factor. But even when the state stops cutting K-12 education budget, more than $675 million is still owed to the Cherry Creek School District to make up for cuts sustained over the past 12 years. One misconception we often hear is that due to increasing property values, the school district has more funding. Unfortunately, that is not true. We receive funding from state and local sources, but our total funding from School Finance Act is fixed. That means that when we receive more property tax revenue, we receive less state funding. In other words, your increased property taxes are allowing the state to spend money on other initiatives instead of K-12. We do not receive any additional funding. Looking forward, we need to remain vigilant in protecting our school district funding amid a myriad of proposals which would cut our revenue. We need to continue to invest in our students, schools, and employees to maintain our legacy of excellence. I am very pleased to announce that Cherry Creek School District will begin live streaming a portion of our Board of Education meetings beginning in April. During my recent campaign for re-election and our meetings during the past year, we heard the desire to live stream, and thanks are in order to this board and this district for being responsive to our community in offering this feature. Congratulations to Cherry Creek High School for raising more than $55,000 during Power Week for Bags of Fun to provide backpacks filled with enjoyment for children hospitalized with illness. Here's to all the strong women in our lives who lift us up and encourage us to be our best selves. Please enjoy a restful spring break. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Director Egan. Director Knowles.
Thank you to Sky Vista for hosting us tonight and to Principal McCourt. And thank you to everyone who helped make our mobile board meetings possible. As I've heard Director Allen say before, our board makes decisions in our schools and not in a boardroom. I appreciate the comments already from Director Egan. I don't have anything additional tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Knowles. Director Allen.
Good evening. Tonight I highlight a critical component of board governance, the consent agenda. The consent agenda streamlines our meeting process. Before items are placed on the agenda, they are thoroughly vetted during our study sessions. On tonight's consent agenda is Resolution 24.3.7, which addresses the approval of overflow boundaries for Altitude Elementary and Woodland Elementary for the 24-25 school year. The resolution balances enrollment across Altitude and Woodland and follows extensive analysis and community input. The Long Range Facility Planning Committee, consisting of administrators, parents, teachers, and community members, recommended adopting Scenario A for the boundaries. I thank everyone involved in this process. I also thank those who provided feedback at board meetings and who sent the board emails. Your participation and comments were considered and played an important role in our decision making. Also on the consent agenda is Resolution 24.3.11 concerning the purchase of a new nutrition service warehouse at Centennial Business Center. Since our existing warehouse was built in 1997, our district has added 26 schools and over 13,000 students, and we have seen an exponential increase in meal program participation following the Healthy Meals for All initiative. The resolution authorizes the necessary officials to complete the purchase following due diligence to ensure the facility meets our needs. I also take this opportunity to highlight some important events taking place this month. Ramadan begins on the evening of March 10th and ends on the evening of April 9th. It's a sacred month for Muslims dedicated to daytime fasting and special prayers and focused on spiritual growth, self-discipline, and empathy for the less fortunate. Muslims use this time to draw closer to God and engage in acts of charity. The month concludes with Eid al-Fitr, a celebration of breaking the fast with feasting and community gathering. I recently asked one of my Muslim friends what we can do best to help support Muslim students during Ramadan. She provided me with these thoughts. Muslims come from diverse ethnic and racial backgrounds. It is important to avoid generalizations and stereotypes, recognizing that the Islamic faith spans various cultures and nations. Please recognize that fasting students will have lower stamina for physical and mental tasks, especially in the initial days of Ramadan, and adjust expectations accordingly and provide support as needed. Support the needs of fasting students, including providing spaces for prayer and rest. Foster an inclusive atmosphere where students feel their cultural and religious practices are respected and valued. I also take a moment to recognize that March is Women's History Month, a time for reflection, appreciation, and celebration. It offers us a chance to acknowledge the countless women who have paved the way for progress in every facet of society. This month also allows us to shine a spotlight on a group that molds our future every day, our teachers. Our educators, predominantly women, are mentors, innovators, and role models who inspire our students to pursue their dreams without limitations. It's a fitting coincidence that the celebration aligns with Cherry Creek Reads Week, now in its 6th year, which underscores the importance of reading in our community. Reading is vital to our strategic plan and the cornerstone of educational opportunities. I take this time to celebrate our own local author, Lorenzo Zoe Contreras, a junior at Smoky Hill High School. Zoe, a student athlete, is also a best-selling published author. Zoe's children's book, Sammy the Super Snail, Hero of the Garden, recently reached #1 on Amazon. Sammy the Super Snail tells the story of a too small, too slow snail who has big dreams, Zoe explains. Through the story, Sammy always makes a difference in everything he does. He makes a difference in his garden and has a positive impact on everybody he meets. To learn more about Zoe and Sammy the Super Snail, check out the article, Final Four Athlete and Best-Selling Author. Lorenzo Zoe Contreras is doing both. Written by Gloria Namgung, Editor-in-Chief of Smoky Now, Smoky's online publication. Thank you for your time. Keep reading and enjoy spring break.
Thank you, Director Allen. Director Bates?
Thank you and good evening, and thank you to Ms. McCourt and Sky Vista for hosting us this evening. As always, I'd like to thank all of those that help to make our meetings run smoothly. I appreciate all of you. And once again, congratulations to Ian Lopez. Director Egan has already mentioned that, so I will skip over that in my comments. And then this time of year is always a time that it's an exciting time of year when we have sports wrapping up for the winter season. We had 3 different high school teams that were into the Final Four this year. We had Cherokee Trail High School girls who were there for the first time ever in the school's history. Eagle Crest High School and Smoky Hill High School boys teams, as well as Cherry Creek High School. Congratulations to all for making it that far. As you all know, our food and nutrition services now serve breakfast and lunch to any student who wishes to have a meal, regardless of their financial status. On average, this comes to an approximately 35,000 meals a day. On Thursday afternoon, our food and nutrition team invites you to take a tour of their facility. This will run from 4 to 6 p.m. You will tour the bakery and the warehouse, sample scratch cooked recipes, You will meet and greet with our leadership team and then learn about the National School Nutrition Program as well. Mrs. Allen has already mentioned our altitude boundaries, so I will go ahead and skip that in my comments as well. What I will say to that regard of that, in regards to the boundary changes, as a mom of 5 that spent 18 years in Cherry Creek schools, our family experienced a move like this as well. During our time, our friends had to move to another school, and I will say that to this day, our children are still in contact with each other. We did not lose friendships over this. It's interesting because our boys are now 29 years old and they live in different states and they are still in contact. So I do empathize with everybody. We had a hard time making that decision, but I empathize with all of you. And then I just say, enjoy your spring break, please.
Thank you, Director Bates. Good evening. Thank you to the Sky Vista community for hosting us tonight. Let us remember to hold space for the members of our Muslim community, especially the students honoring Ramadan. They are honoring their faith and trying to navigate the school day. I continue to visit schools and events across our district. I appreciate the work and effort required for our teachers and staff to do new things. The care and intention taken to implement and learn programs that will place Cherry Creek School District on the path to literacy for all, whole well-being, and the elimination of disparities predictable by certain factors is a new and exciting and transformational initiative. I look forward to touring more schools and to sharing the innovative and brilliant ways our teachers and staff engage our students and families. I have also attended multiple community events at the invitation of students, parents, and businesses about issues involving health, education, business, membership, and mentorship and self-care. Kudos to the Smoky Hill Drone soccer team for placing first in the state competition. And congratulations to the Smoky Hill boys basketball team for making it to the Final Four in state. Great job, boys. The young basketball team is poised to have another great run next year. One player in particular epitomizes excellence on and off the court. Point guard Lorenzo Contreras leads the team in steals and assists, but he is also a top-selling author on Amazon. So everyone, hold up your phones. Come on. Open up your Amazon apps, because I know we all have them. Type in Sammy the Super Snail Hero of the Garden. It's available on the Kindle. And put it in your cart and purchase. So we're supporting entrepreneurship in our schools and excellence. So congratulations to Lorenzo for being a bestseller. I also want to congratulate Smoky Hill alum and 2023 graduate Eagle Scout Noble Haskell for being awarded a Scout of the Year for his resilient recovery from a horrific crash that left him a quadriplegic. Yet he is now walking and earned the rank of Eagle. You may have seen his story last year on both local and national news outlets. It went viral. His quest to walk again is truly a miracle. He also graduated on time with his class and with honors. Noble's story epitomizes several of our core values: equity, whole well-being, relationships, and growth mindset. His caregivers and rehabilitation team at Craig Hospital worked with members of our district to ensure that Noble was able to complete his schoolwork, and the Smoky Hill Community and district supported his physical and mental health needs. Our collective community surrounded Noble and his family and worked together to host events and celebrate his recovery, all of which culminated in his ability to walk again, when doctors thought otherwise. In addition to all the other things, Noble earned the rank of Eagle Scout, and for his Eagle Scout project, he partnered with a student at Cherry Creek High School, William McDavid, to create an art installation of Rubik's Cubes that will be permanently housed at Craig Hospital. Great job to all the buffs. And I also have comments about our streaming, so for the sake of time, I will let my colleagues' comments stand. So everyone enjoy their spring break and take some time off and just relax. Thank you. And now we'll have comments from Superintendent Chris Smith.
Do we want to do the students first, Ms. Farland?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, we will have comments from our students. I'm sorry, the most important people here today. So our first student is Jefferson Cizzoni. He's not here. Okay, well, we will If he comes, we will scoot him in the lineup. Cameron Carius from Sky Vista.
Hello, my name is Cameron Carius, and I'm an 8th grader here at Sky Vista. I'm happy to welcome you all to my school. Teachers have impacted me in many ways, both academically and emotionally. They have taught me the fundamentals of learning, leadership, and being a well-rounded person. In elementary school, I had a teacher, Miss Larson, that provided me with care for my whole well-being. During my parents' separation, not only did she continue to teach me and treat me like a normal student, she went above and beyond and checked in on me almost every day just to make sure I was doing okay. She helped me thrive during a difficult time in my life and made sure I felt understood and accepted. Not only have I built relationships with teachers and mentors, I have built friendships that I will take into high school and hopefully a lifetime. My strong group of friends, some who I have known since kindergarten, others from later in my life, is made up of a diverse group that my dad likes to call the Pigeons. While I'm not too sure where pigeons came from, we all come from different ethnic backgrounds. Some are more athletic, some are more academic, but nevertheless, we are all like-minded in that we want to challenge ourselves and achieve the most we can. We all encourage each other and only hope to bring each other up instead of judging or making fun of each other. I truly am so grateful to have them in my life as they bring out the best in me, no matter if we're laughing and having a fashion show at 3 a.m. or trying to focus and plan a study session at Starbucks. Learning leadership skills has also been the most valuable thing I will take with me. Near the end of 7th grade, I was encouraged by student council and leadership teacher, Mr. Hirakawa, to try my best and apply to leadership. With a brief explanation from a few 8th grade students, I thought it was interesting and decided to submit an application. Now with my year in leadership almost over, what I have learned and valued the most is that putting forth a strong effort pays off. My favorite accomplishment is organizing and holding a spirit assembly for the entire school. We had to organize, work together, and think of ways to include everyone. It was probably the most fulfilling thing I've done in middle school. Mr. Hirakawa also challenged me to apply to the Leadership Academy at Eagle Crest. I've applied and hopefully will be accepted, allowing me to grow my leadership skills. All of this growth would not be possible without my family. My parents come from different backgrounds and have always challenged my brother and I to want more. I'm excited for my next chapter in high school because I feel prepared to take on the next part of my life, and hopefully one day I can be a woman in leadership just like you all. Thanks.
Cameron, come on down. We have questions. So, I am curious, are these the pigeons?
This is most of the pigeons.
Most of the pigeons.
We're missing one.
Okay, can you share their names?
That's Alina. Hi. That's Carissa and Malia. We call her Miley.
Okay.
Carissa and Miley helped organize the spirit assembly that we put on in leadership.
Then that's what's going to be my next question about that rally. Sounds really exciting, especially that it was inclusive. What are some things you did in organizing it to accommodate all students?
So when we first took on the project, we didn't think it was going to be that hard, but as we were planning it, it got a lot harder. So we tried to find different ways to include everybody in activities that we put on and helped supervise. And we also were able to provide hot chocolate for all the students, and it was super cool.
Now, are there fashions from the 3 a.m. fashion show?
There was a bucket of high heels involved.
Okay.
And we were strutting down the basement floor.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And do you have any other guests who are here supporting you?
I have Tara, my stepmom. I have Alex, my dad. I have Daphne, my mom. Nicholas, my brother, and my principal, Miss Shelley McCourt.
Yes, they did an excellent job. And let's go Pigeons. Is that Well, thank you. I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I will give a strong, strong shout out that you get into the Leadership Academy at Eagle Crest.
Thank
Is somebody
you.
here for that? Okay.
Thank
so,
you.
But good luck to you and your future plans.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did Jeff missed it? Okay. We'll have Jaden Alon Ward from Eagle Crest.
Hello, I'm Jada Ward, and I'm a junior at Eagle Crest High School. I've been a student within the Cherry Creek School District since 4th grade. While searching for a house, my mom wanted to make sure that I was in the best school district. My mother heard from her friends that CCSD provides their students with the opportunities needed to succeed, and in my opinion, I believe she made the right choice. Over my past 3 years at Eagle Crest, I have been a member of the Student Leadership Program. Having the privilege of being a part of this program has allowed me to connect with my peers on a different level as I've become their main form of communication to administration and the student body. Serving as this year's junior class president has allowed me to become a resource for my peers so that they know that they always have an impact at the nest. I've been given many opportunities to plan and execute events such as the Centennial League Conference, leading my peers at assemblies, and planning this year's junior prom masquerade at the museum. The junior class and I are working hard to create a memorable night for our peers. Equity has become one of my personal core values. This is the core value that I'd like to address tonight. What does equity mean to you? To me, it means taking a deeper dive into identifying unrepresented groups within communities in order to provide them extra resources to ensure their success. The practice of equity within schools provides equal opportunity and inclusion for all students. Eagle Crest has opened many opportunities for me to share my voice. Student leadership has been my primary platform to share my voice as I am in the equity committee within my student council. The Equity Committee is essential because of its mission to embrace the diversity of our student body. I have also served on the Superintendent's Advisory Group. Working closely with Mr. Smith has allowed me to learn about the function of our district and elevate resources from the student perspective. This year, we have been working on public service announcements to send out to our community on topics we see frequently as students. For example, I worked on a committee to do a PSA on the issue of combating hate. I'm also a district leader for the Students Organized Against Racism group, or SOAR, which allows me to connect with students from other schools and hear their calls for action. I particularly like that the district SOAR group comes together to discuss issues at all schools and try to problem solve as a group. In addition, I am proud to say I serve on the Equity Committee for the CHASA State Representatives. In this committee, we do similar things that we do in the district SOAR committee, but this is at the state level. As you can see, I'm very vested in the core value of equity, and I hope that what I've talked about this evening gives you an idea how students are organized in this practice. We always need more of this. I've learned the importance of amplifying the student voice within our school and our communities as we are the future. Eagle Crest exemplifies the practice of equity by providing opportunities for each and every student, no matter their identity. I am thankful for the many opportunities that my school, district, and even the state have provided for me to learn and voice my passion about equity. I appreciate you all for giving me the platform to discuss how valuable these experiences are for myself and my peers. I'm proud to be a Raptor and a student of the Cherry Creek School District. Once again, I think my mom made the right decision. Thank you, CCSD.
Thank you for that. That was an awesome plug for us and all the realtors in the area. So tell me a little bit about your work on the CHASA committee. Are you in a sport?
No, so student leadership is probably what I'm most involved in and in and outside of school. Through my student council, I applied to be a CHASA state representative. And so that's basically like a statewide student council. I've got to connect with like schools up in the mountains to schools locally. It's just been a really fun experience.
Great, great. Now you talked about your involvement with SOAR. And being involved at a district level, what are some things that you have worked on that you think have impacted our entire district?
It's a great question. I think Just of how we are able to come together and like coming from different schools, especially with high school and sports, there's a lot of quote rivalries, but we are all able to come to like a common agreement of the issues that we see in our school. And what I like most about our SOAR group is the planning period that we get at the end of what we can bring back to our communities, our schools individually.
And then I'm fascinated about Masquerade at the Museum.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So, Masquerade at the Museum will take place May 18th at the Nature and Science Museum. We're so excited. We are able to get a few of the exhibits, and the student body has overall really perceived this theme with such excitement. So.
That sounds, do I get a ticket?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, thank you for all you do. What are your plans after high school? Have you decided?
My plans after high school, I know I want to go into a 4-year college.
Okay.
I'd like to study to become an attorney, but also a journalist on the side with that. So incorporating both of them together.
I see that. You're on the right track. So
Thank you.
Best wishes to you with all of that, and I would like an update next year.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Okay. And we are saving the best for last, Jefferson Cizzoni.
So my name is Jefferson, and I'm a 10-year-old fourth grader at Dakota Valley. I feel welcome in the school because everyone cares for me. 2 teachers that have shown that they've really cared about me is Ms. Simpson and Mr. Hurrell, because they always answer my questions and they make learning fun. It is fun when we do Kahoots or Buckets. I also like getting challenged. Ms. Nossman gives me challenging math problems, and I try to answer the question correctly. She has also helped me with my growth mindset. I want my teachers to be kind but firm when I'm talking in class. I need them to answer my questions when something doesn't make sense. They need to be funny and make it fun to learn. I also want a teacher who doesn't give homework. All the teachers I've had a positive and encouraging attitude. It would be hard to learn from a teacher who doesn't understand me or how I learn best. I'm lucky that I have teachers who have helped me. As I keep getting older in school, I hope that I continue to have teachers that believe in me.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now, you said that you like doing challenging math problems.
Yeah.
Can you describe maybe a challenging math problem that you had recently?
So technically just like finding like a 6 of, so kind of just like fractions of an area.
Fractions of an area.
Yeah.
Okay, now what do you hope to do with that in the future?
Kind of just practice it.
Keep practicing. That's a good plan. That's a good plan. Well, thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate that you have a growth mindset and that we absolutely, maybe you can be a math teacher down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Smith? Okay. Well, thank you, Jefferson, for coming, and you have a great evening.
Thank you.
And now we'll have comments from Superintendent Smith.
All right, first just thank you, all of the students, for being here. Jefferson, thanks for coming. Glad you made it. We appreciate that you have teachers who care about you, and keep challenging yourself, buddy. But bad news, I don't think I can help you with the whole homework thing. I think that's going to last for a while. Yeah. Cameron, great job. Great job. I know it's not easy getting up in front of people and having conversations, but thank you for being a leader. You said that you hope someday that you're a woman in leadership. You already are. So just know that. And so the pigeons take care of each other, right? Right? That's right. Here's what I see right now. I see a ton of support. Mom and dad and everybody here supporting you. That doesn't always happen. So make sure that you're thankful for that. Make sure that you're thankful for you have friends that build you up, right? Because there are people who don't have that. So don't take advantage of it. Make sure that you continue to nurture those relationships, nurture those friendships, because they'll serve you forever, just like Miss Bates said with her and her son, right? And then Jada, thank you. How was the field trip?
It was great.
Was it fun?
Lots of fun.
So we did PSAs, and then they had a chance to go to a news studio and kind of see how it's really done. So I appreciate your messaging to our students. I appreciate your messaging to our community, working on equity at the school level, at the district level, at the state level. Thank you for being a voice. Thank you for being a voice for people who don't always have one. And would love to continue the conversation about seeing how we can get you in more spaces. Will that work? All right. And then same thing, attorney and journalist. I have no doubt that you're going to do whatever you want to do, Jada. So congratulations. So thank you all for being here, and I appreciate it. So I'll keep my comments brief. A couple of things, just want to also recognize Ramadan and just recognize our students during this time as they celebrate with their families, as they pray and they reflect, but also that it's difficult to fast throughout the day. So making sure we take time as educators to understand that what they're going through and make sure that we have grace during this time. I also want to recognize National Women's History Month and the leaders of this school district and the leaders that are sitting right in front of me. So I appreciate the contributions of our women, and I thank this leadership team all the way down to Jinsey for all that they do to support me and the district level. I also want to thank Matt Schaefer and the work that you did on these boundary pieces. These are very, very difficult situations. We are moving people from one school to another. We're having conversations around friendships, and it's never easy. But I appreciate what you did. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you putting recommendations forward so that DLT could help support that. But thank you, Matt. I know that's not an easy thing. And then lastly, this is something that's been on my mind, and it is talked about from Ms. Egan. There is no school district in the state of Colorado that's overfunded, no matter how many times you may hear that. Our students matter. Public education in the state of Colorado should be a priority. We have one of the highest income of states in the United States and one of the least opportunities for funding in the United States. That's shameful. We need to support our students. We need to make sure that they have what they need. While I appreciate the governor backfilling the BS factor, should have been done a long time ago. And it was passed into law last year, so we had to do it. But I'm also hearing conversations that after they do that, a bill is going to be passed that is going to cut upwards of $300 million to 75% of the students in the state of Colorado. Again, shameful. This will have impacts, most importantly, on our students, on our teachers, on our staff, and I'm a true believer in public education. Public education is the foundation of this country. And if we continue to not prioritize it, our students will lack what they need as they move into our workforce. So I apologize that I'm getting kind of hung up on my words, but I'm passionate and I'm frustrated and I'm angry because our politicians need to prioritize the students who are sitting right in front of me. And so we will continue to work as a school district. We will continue to work as a board to ensure that not only the students in Cherry Creek, but the students across the state get what they need. That concludes my comments, Ms. Garland.
Thank you for that, and we appreciate your passion. And I echo the same. I'm a public school product, and I'm very proud of that as well. Now we will have our special report for the discipline data and our expulsion task force.
I'd like to introduce Angie Zahner, our Executive Director of Middle School Education, and she has a couple of moral supporters coming up to support her. Just to put Angie's mind at ease, this is the first time she's presented in front of the board, so we'll take it easy on you, Angie.
Thank you. All right, can you guys hear me okay? All right, good evening, and thank you to our Board of Education. All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight, my name is Angie Zahner, not just tonight, but my name is Angie Zahner, and every night it still is Angie Zahner. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the expulsion task force and what we've been working on. Let's see if I can get this going here. Here you go. Is it? All right. A little bit of the historical perspective. Started last year, actually. We started to really look at and to dive into looking at our expulsion process, our expulsion programming, and to really evaluate what's kind of a goal level setting of looking at our practices, our process, procedures that we have in place, who's getting expelled, why are they getting expelled, looking at what programming we have. And so we broke ourselves up into two groups. We had an expulsion service group and we had expulsion process group. In the expulsion service groups, we really looked at what did we offer when students were expelled, what transitions did we offer for students so that they could feel even success as they transition from homeschool into expulsion program and then from expulsion program back into their home school. We also looked at the academics and the social emotional programming pathways that we had available for them, looked at the roles of counselors, our EARS partners, as well as restorative practices, and just monitoring how did our students do as they transitioned back into school. The other group, the expulsion process group, they dug into looking at why were students getting expelled, looked at our data, what did the data show us, looked at what actions were taking place prior to a student being expelled, and then also looking at when they were expelled, what was even offered, teachers, programmings for students, for families, what are some of the services that were maybe even offered for preventative measures for them, and then again continuing to look at the data and looking at our disproportionality. That led us to moving into this year where we actually moved into looking and focusing into three main areas. But before we even broke into the three main areas, we started to focus in on what would our discipline belief statement be. So with that, the discipline belief statement, we really focused in on the following key bullet areas. I'm going to pick on a couple of them, though. One being behaviors communication. Any type of behaviors communication. And so what is that saying to us? And are we listening? And are we actually wanting to hear what's being said so that we can figure out how to support? The other is relationships. We know that relationship is key and foundation to everything. We know that that's the start and the end of our days. So are we actually taking control and being really intentional around our relationships that we have from the very moment that a student gets on the bus to the very end of the day when they get back onto the bus and all the interactions they have throughout? And then realizing that it does take a village to actually support all of our students within our systems. Struggling a little bit with here. So the three areas that we broke into attendance group, preventative measures, and then policy and practice. With the attendance group, we know that when students are expelled, one of the key indicators that kind of show itself is students that may have a high attendance rate, and so of absenteeism. And so what we started to look for in that group is they're going to look at the clarity of codes. Like, how are we being consistent around how we're actually marking our students with absences and looking at any trends? Are we looking at, again, policy around our attendances, the practices that we're using to communicate with our families around attendance? And then also the dashboard. Are we making it accessible for our schools to even be able to monitor quickly and, again, consistently to determine when students are starting to reach a level that we need to make sure we are communicating with our families? So we say, hey, did you know that your child is missing this many days? And what happens when our students are missing the days? And then we know the lack of engagement. When we start to increase the number of days absent, then they also start to feel disengaged because they're feeling behind. The preventative measures groups, they are, as we mentioned before, they also started to work on the belief statement, getting the belief statement for us to use. They were also looking at, with our EARS partners, how to maximize their partnership amongst our schools, and then also the collaboration around the MTSS Golden Standard number 5, which is really looking at system-wide implementation of collaboration and how are we implementing whether it's restorative practices, whether it's PBIS, system-wide. And then the third group broke themselves into focusing on policy and practice, myths of policy, alignment and response to unexpected behaviors, and that's such thing as drugs, alcohol, and fighting. And some of the myths of policies, when we talk about that, one example would be in drugs and alcohol, and policy JICH would talk about we'd have a third offense, and for a student who may have had drugs use or possession of drugs or alcohol on campus, on a third offense in a practice, we may have been moving forward of saying, let's move forward with an expulsion process, expulsion hearing. But in policy, it actually says discipline shall be recommended, or let me get the right wording for you, hang on. It would say shall be subject to disciplinary action, which may include suspension and or expulsion. So when I say myths of policy, we were maybe moving forward with expulsion when you really didn't have to, because that is not mandatory for expulsion. And then again, in alignment of response to unexpected behavior. Kids are going to make mistakes. There are kids. They are all the way up through graduation, they're going to make mistakes, but when we talk about the unexpected behaviors, bringing drugs, alcohol, that is something that we would say unexpected behaviors. Talk about the emphasis of collaboration, bringing in many people into our group, bringing in members of the MTSS committee, EDOP, ECCE, PELT, and I know there's a lot of acronyms on here, but bringing in many members of our stakeholders into our monthly meetings so that we hear multiple perspectives at the table. And then making sure we have all levels brought at the table as well to make sure we are hitting that golden standard of number 5. And again, that is looking at a system-wide implementation and collaboration. So some specific outcomes from our group. One of the outcomes that we've already started to work on is a high school consequence guide. Now, this high school consequence guide is really used as an administrative tool. It uses the policy and pathways to provide a consistent way to manage unexpected behaviors. We have a consequence guide already at the middle school and the elementary school, and so this is a outcome that we will see by the end of the school year and be ready to implement for the beginning of the school year with the high school consequence guide. The other thing that will be implemented throughout all of the consequence guides, elementary, middle, and high school, is that discipline belief statement that will be embedded in all 3 of them as well. The attendance is the clarity of the codes, policy, and processes. The school dashboard, they are actually working on that, which is going to be embedded within Tableau. That's a system that we use within our district that can create reports for us, and already started to work in actually looking at the dashboard last week and seeing how that can actually pull the attendance reports for us. So it makes it easier for a school to, again, quickly pull up that report to identify students with high absentee rates and to, again, be consistent amongst all grades, elementary all the way through high school, so that, again, that communication starts and it's consistent across the board. And because currently right now, when you go to create a report, there's many filters that a school has to go through in order to be able to get to how many number of absences that you have. You have to put in a number of codes to be able to bring that report into your school to be able to then identify the students, to be able to put that in an Excel sheet, to be able to then call down the students. So there's a lot of steps that go into it now, and we have a committee and a group that's working on creating a dashboard that makes it really super easy and, again, consistent. And then the preventative measures group working on the alignment and response to unexpected behaviors, again with the consequence guide, but also just looking at how we respond and looking at ways that we are responding, and are we doing some additional interventions before we just say we're going to move towards expulsion. So are we offering ADL, TCC class, our Anti-Defamation League, and our Conflict Center classes? Are we making sure that we are having them take the drug and alcohol classes that we have available for our students? Are we offering Hazel Health, Aurora Mental Health? Are we having them meet with student groups? Are we working check-in, check-outs? Like, what are those intervention pieces that we're actually doing before we are saying that we're moving towards an expulsion process? And then, bless you. And then the other piece that we're doing is looking at the referral process. When a student is referred to the dean's office or referred in, we're looking at the referrals that are coming to the office, and again looking to see if what's being matched, the input that's coming in on the referrals, is it matching with the output, state reportable, non-state reportable, that we're being, again, consistent with what we are offering in terms of the consequence that goes with the referral. And then, of course, we are continuing to evolve and adapt. So as we move forward, we'll be bringing in and involving more students involved in this process. We will continue with our stakeholders, getting additional feedback, and we continue to restructure the expulsion services, all the way including and changing the name of the expulsion program to Compass. So that is already, excuse me, one of the changes that have already occurred, along with restructuring, with even offering additional core classes. And so even at the expulsion program, formerly known as the expulsion program, now it's Compass, the additional classes that are being offered, the 4 core content, the advisory, every single day in person, the SEL classes that are being offered there, and the supports on a daily basis. And then ultimately looking at a way to continue to measure, we're looking at 85% or more of our students will not have multiple incidents of unexpected behavior. And so when you look at that again, we're looking for entry points for our schools of getting at 85% or more, and then jumping to 95 or 90% or more to 95% or more. And finally, let me get this last slide here. Looking at where we've been over the last couple years, you can look at the data of looking at 21, 22, where a celebration that I would share is that 86.8% of our students did not have any incidents in the year 21, 22. And then in 22, 23, 85.6% of students did not have any incidents. And currently, as of in February, this data was taken as February of this year, we're sitting at 89.9% of our students did not have any incidents. So huge celebrations. And so the top part, though, that would be indicated of our students that have multiple incidents, but I really did want to hit the highlights of students not having any incidents at this point. And that concludes my presentation.
You did an awesome job.
Thank you.
We'll start our questions with Director Egan.
Thank you, Ms. Egan.
So I know that COVID is running rampant again, but I was just being thoughtful about how different it looks now than it did 3 and 4 years ago. So thankful for that. I do want to go back to that last slide because I think that that's interesting, and I just wondered if you could shed some light, because we were in the pandemic through a portion of this. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you think those numbers are saying to us.
Are you talking in terms of from COVID or just in general? Sorry, because you mentioned COVID.
General, we were not in school at all days during these years, so I'm just curious if you could just kind of paint a bigger picture about that.
I do think that, when our students, I'm going to give you the best picture I can get painted at this point. Many of our students really do a very, very good job. And so even when you think about coming out of COVID in our 20 and our 21, 22, and we were still in a very hybrid year at that 21, 22, where you had that year, we had 12,000 in online. Is that about right? So that's a different painted picture on that one. You still had students that were still, everybody was doing really well. So I don't have the best answer for you, I don't think, on that one, other than I think students really didn't have many of the incidences. Really at this point here, even if the 3,000 or the 3,100 students, out of all those students having 2 or more incidents, they could have had just 2 minor incidents that were put into there. So I'm sorry, I don't have the best I don't have an answer for you clearly on that one.
I would say Director Egan also did that.
Yep.
Okay. Been doing this for a while. I don't know how I messed that up. But also having a conversation around support systems. So if you look at 22, 23, I do think we were expecting an uptick, right? We were having conversations of students being isolated. We have students who, had different situations. And I do think part of that becomes self-medication. I do think some of that becomes re-entry into school. And some of our kids have been out for a while. And that becomes a difficult situation when you're coming back in. And what we're starting to see, and what I hope continues to be the trend, is that trend of down, right? We're putting systems in place. We're putting structures in place for students to access support structures for them. We now have drug and alcohol counselors inside of our high schools. So if we see a student that might be utilizing controlled substances, we can get in there a little bit quicker, get them the help they need. Also with Hazel Health and those opportunities for students to get that mental health piece. So what I hope is that the structures we're putting in place continue to have this go down. And while we do have students who show excessive behaviors, those are going down. Students are starting to get more comfortable being back in school, and we've noticed that as well.
Great, thank you. I have mentioned to you, Mr. Smith, that I was fortunate to meet one of the drug and alcohol counselors at Cherry Creek High School, and just so excited about that. That's been kind of an evolution since I was at that school, in 2 years, a year and a half ago. And we know that there's many, many reasons that students miss school. We know that there's really a lot of different reasons for that. So I appreciate that. So Ms. Zahner, for those who are not so confident with our acronyms, I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about EARS and MTSS.
Mm-hmm. MTSS is our multi-tier system, and that is really where you are looking at all the different ways in which we're supporting a student. And so again, if a student is struggling academics, if a student is struggling behaviors, you are working collectively together to support a student. Counselor, dean, administrator, mental health, teacher, all areas are coming together to support a student in whatever realm that they need. In our EARS partners, they are working again for helping with our transitioning of our students that may again work in students at risk. So again, it's our students who are at risk, so that's going to be our at-risk students. So they will come in, work with students either at our high schools, transition with them to and from, working with families, providing them resources to support so that again, they can make the best transitions as they go back into the buildings.
And also at the high schools, there's an EARS grant partner at every high school. I can't remember exactly what the acronym is. expelled and at-risk student services, right? So inside of that, they track attendance. One of the biggest things that we have found as a support is they help our deans track attendance and then help call parents. Why are our students not coming? And then having opportunities to sit with students and say, why aren't you coming to school? And if there's issues with work, or if there's issues at home, or if there's issues with transportation, they try to work with the family to overcome that, because we know the first factor is we need you here, right? And then if it's maybe some disagreements with certain teachers or certain issues or certain courses, we can help them in that moment in time as well. So the EARS grant partners have been a game changer for us, honestly, because it's that one-on-one person that's not a disciplinarian, that's someone that they can go to, that they trust, and build relationships with them. So we've seen a lot of work with them as well. And I think part of that is hiring the right people for the right job. And I think we've done a good job hiring the right people for the grant.
Of policy, and thank you for putting my recorder on. I appreciate that. I keep forgetting, particularly around the 3 strikes and you're out, and just wondering kind of what the evolution of that has been.
Yeah, and it really, when you go into policy, it'll talk about, and even with the word strike, we had a lot of conversation around strike and the negativity just around that term as well. And that was us just using the term strike. And in policy, it talks about the 3rd offense and not even the word strike. And so that, again, over the course of just years of I guess even just talking with students and having students who have we've used strike. So we went back and looked at policy, and it says 3rd offense. So that was one of our first ahas and correction in going back and reviewing policy. And then again, going back to the actual terminology within it and rereading it. And so when you look at even the 3rd offense, and then saying, it says shall, right? That was one key piece. And it doesn't say that you have to, and it's not a must. The other part of it is to look at how long has it been since the 3rd offense actually occurred. They might have had their first offense in 6th grade, and their second offense maybe as a freshman, and the 3rd offense as a senior. And so for us to then say as their 3rd offense at your senior year, when it's been 3 years since between, we really needed to evaluate that. Or maybe they had their first and second offense as a 6th grade and then their 3rd offense as a senior. And so is that really where we really needed to go and say we do need to now say you have to be expelled? No. And again, the word have to be. That was on us. That's not in policy. That was a practice. So when we really, as that group, started to dig into some of the things that we were saying versus saying where were we providing support, where were we providing intervention, where were we providing the resources, and had we done that? And the answer was no. We needed to take a close look at that and really dig into it and to start making some changes.
Well, thanks again, and good job. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Director Knowles.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm going to pull this a little closer. And also just for the reminder that behavior is communication and that relationships are foundational. I think that lens is so important when it comes to discipline. I think you'd mentioned, so the high school consequence guide will be rolling out, but the middle school consequence guide has already come out. Since you're the executive director of middle schools, can you tell us what that process has been like to roll out the middle school consequence guide?
Yes, the consequence guide for middle school has been out for well over 5 years. I want to say it's probably been out now for over 6 years. And it really was working with our legal department and, again, looking at a way to create an alignment. And so that process was really to look at alignment and to make sure that we were using it as a tool so that from one middle school to the next middle school to the next middle school, a student who may have engaged in the same type of infraction had a consistency and a tool that, especially as a new dean, an administrator could go to, that they can use that as a reference. And again, it was a guide. It's not a if then you do this. right? It's not a if then check that and you go to the next step. It really is a guide and is a consistency piece for us and a pathway for us to look with policy and pathways for us to guide. So that rollout really was working with deans and administrators and legal. That was part of that, having multiple members within the team to create this guide for us as a whole collective group.
Thank you. And then being new to the board, I'm still learning about some of the things like the classes that are offered when, for instance, like if someone is suspended, I've heard depending on the infraction, like if they take a class, maybe that can lessen the length of the suspension. Can you talk about the classes? Do we offer them? Are they offered outside? When do they occur? That type of thing?
One of the classes I mentioned was the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, as well as I said ADL TCC, the Conflict Center. And so we do partner with them as well. And that is something that we have offered to reduce a suspension for students who may continue to engage in an ongoing pattern of behavior. It's not something that if you just engage in that behavior one time, whether it was a bullying, continued around race, gender, discrimination of any type, or if it was continued of conflict. It's not just if you just do it once, right? Because we hope at the school level that we would have restorative conversations. We would hope that they would engage in conversations within small group setting, and that the school would work with them also. But if that was a continued pattern, we would have that as an offering as a way to reduce a suspension. And again, we talked about as one of those belief statements is learning. And so there's a learning outcome that would be part of it. So that would be partnered with that particular agency. And right now they're offered once a quarter that we have offered.
Okay. And then my last question, you mentioned restorative practices. Can you give some examples of that at the different schools, what that looks like?
Yeah, many of the schools have restorative practices already embedded within theirs, and not all of them have it at the same degree of level, but they will have students engage in restorative practices, whether it is at within the dean's office between the two students who may have had a conflict, and they will talk with each other and engage in owning their own behavior and then wanting to make it better. There's that level. There's also levels within a restorative circle, and that's at a different point where the teachers and staff have been also trained, and they have restorative circles within their classroom to say, hey, this is what I did, and in the classroom I want to make amends. So there's a different level within there. They also have some teachers at different schools that have teachers that are trained as restorative coaches and at different grade levels, and so they become a restorative coach at the grade level, so they actually help out so that you're not also having just to go to the dean, right? So that they help to reduce the conflict at that grade level before it actually gets to the dean level. So that's another way in which they will do it. They've trained whole staffs. Laredo is one school that I can say as a whole staff has been trained, and Horizon is another school that also has restorative coaches at grade levels as teachers have taken on that particular role. And then students will will go to them to help to restore that. If that doesn't work, then obviously there's another restorative coordinator that is there at their building as well.
Thank you. And yeah, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Knowles. Director Allen?
Thank you. I echo my colleagues' comments. Great job.
Thank you.
I lost my page. For the two working groups, the first one you identified was the expulsion service group. What services, or what have you determined are additional services that need to be provided, should be provided, or going to be provided at Compass?
So that was the first, when we first initially started, those were the two groups we broke into. So they were looking at what services were actually even provided at just even expulsion services provided. They looked at, did we offer transitions to and from, was that even offered? They were looking at what kind of pathways did we have provided. So they were more evaluating what services we had within the systems. And so that's where it was really identified, well, how much do we actually transition students? And again, to the EARS partners, could they actually then push in and become more of that transitional help with families too? Because I think that's another part that we maybe could have done better as they evaluated within that process of how could we help also with families? Because again, that's also a big transition for them.
I would add, Ms. Allen, Director Allen, we had only 2 core content classes a couple of years ago at Compass. We added 2 more so that they're not getting behind inside of their credits. We're also added more mental health to Compass, added the restorative piece to the school, added the EARS grant, because ultimately they're going back to school, and that's our goal, and to make sure that it's a good transition going back. Also, I think the name change just in and of itself was huge, because it's a school, and we want to make sure that the students understand that they're still going to school. And then lastly, we're in the process of providing an opportunity for online options, because if I can't get there, what other options do I have so I still can gain credits while I'm dealing with my consequence. And so that's going to be the next step that we take, is looking for an online version. And we're in the middle of working with that with Ms. Hart at Elevation.
Well, I think that's a phenomenal opportunities, especially for students that we know are going to come back and are going to already feel behind, to have a little less pressure. And then I also just wanted to say thank you for the plan of now that you're up and running, including students in this conversation. Chris, Superintendent Smith, I know how important student voice is to you, and I think that additional layer is going to inform and enrich your work. So thank you for doing that. Great job.
Thank you. Director Bates.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zahner. I appreciate your presentation, and Mr. Smith has clarified my questions that I was going to ask about that. So I do not have any further questions at this time, but thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a few questions now. What is the delineation that puts a student in Compass, as far as like if they're suspended or if they're expelled? Like, can they go for a couple days and then go back to their home school? Yeah. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. Suspension is just at their school. So if they're suspended, they're going to be at their school and returning back to the school with a reentry. Expulsion would mean that they're going to be going through the expulsion hearing process, and if determined that they are expelled, then they would be going to the Compass, the expulsion program now known as Compass. So that is the difference between the two, that they would be out anywhere from it can range, right? Time served all the way up to a year.
Thank you. And then my next question is around the restorative justice piece. Mm-hmm. It's kind of I guess a multi-pronged question. One, like, where is the victim centered in that process?
Well, the victim, there's a piece of that where you have to ask the victim, what do they want, first of all, too, because we would never force the victim to be part of the restorative if they are not wanting to be part of that, because that they need to be wanting to be piece of that. And then the other part of that is to understand, as the person who did harm, understanding how their words and actions do play out. And often, sometimes when we do say things, we don't realize the ripple effects that it has beyond. Sometimes they think it's just that moment, but it goes beyond. And so helping also to understand that ripple effect. But the victim part, they may not necessarily have that restorative piece if they're not ready for that, but we also need to make sure we are taking care of them and ensuring that they are also, their needs are being met, whether that is through the social emotional, the check-ins with counselors, or just whatever their needs are, because that's going to be essential to them.
And then I know I do like the restorative practices, but I know even when I go to like different community groups and even sometimes in the schools or whatever, some of them are great and some of them struggle with just trying to find time to do them. And so, and then recognizing at places where sometimes that's the teacher's role and they still have class going on. Like, how do we hold space for the restorative process? And then, like, is there ever like a cutoff time for that?
Right.
I know that's kind of a long question.
Well, and it's a great question, because to that piece, that is where I think when we talk about system-wide and implementation, it is not set all the way across, right? And so that's still in, I would say, more of an infancy stage, because we've got some schools that have had more training than others, and others that have had the very basic restorative, even within just their deans or within some teachers that have been trained. And so there is that variance across the district.
Thank you for that. And my last one is kind of just maybe a yellow question / comment. Now, I feel like the term 3 strikes kind of emerged in the 90s with the sentencing disparities that came down from the federal level. Do you know that to be true, or is that just kind of my version of events?
Well, I don't know that to be 100% true, but being that you're saying that, that was brought up when we were first discussing that, and very similar to what you just said, that was brought up in our discussion around the word strikes. So I don't know if that to be true, but that when you just said that piece, that was part of a discussion that was brought up as like that did not sit well.
Yeah, because that's where I first heard the term with the mandatory sentencing, like kind of regardless of what you did, and kind of the same concepts over time. If you had done things as a teen or in your early 20s or things like that, it just kind of, the 3 strikes was kind of the kind of tough on crime movement that may have filtered to our schools too. So, but that concludes my questions for the night. And again, I think you did a great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you all.
It is at this point in our meeting that we make time for members of the audience who have completed the online public comment form prior to 12 noon today to address the Board of Education. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. A buzzer will sound at the end of the 2 minutes, and the microphone and audio will be automatically muted. Each speaker may only speak once during public comment. Speaking time may not be shared between speakers. This is your opportunity to make comments to the Board of Education in accordance with board policy. It is not a question and answer session. Please confine your comments to matters that are germane to the business of the district. Further, please recognize that students attend most of our meetings. Any speakers whose statements or behavior are unrelated to the business of the district, appear threatening or unsafe, or inappropriate for K-12 students may be interrupted or warned, and their opportunity for comments terminated. Audience members who speak are asked to do so in a respectful manner, and the audience is encouraged to listen respectfully. Any speaker or audience member who disrupts the good order of the board meeting, including the speaking time of others, may be asked to leave. We are very interested in your feedback and will listen carefully. On behalf of the board, I want to thank you in advance for your comments and for taking the time to come to tonight's meeting. Mr. Koenig, could you please call up our first 5 speakers?
I'll call 5 speakers up. Please line up in order behind the podium. Remember to state your name at the beginning of your statements. Nicole Chappell, Amy Zorns, Krista Coriel, Madeline Horn, Dana Kirchmar.
Nicole Chappell is my name. Members of the board, thank you for allowing us to be heard tonight. I'm a parent of a child at altitude, and I live in scenario A, where I, like many of my neighbors, walk my child to and from school almost every single day. Living just a half a mile from the school and walking were the driving force to move to this part of the neighborhood 2 years ago, and it's one of the main reasons that I ask you to not choose scenario A tonight as you vote on the boundary change. This is an emotional decision for all of us in the neighborhood, as we're all invested and involved in our school and community, with each scenario holding an almost identical amount of students who currently attend altitude. Because of that, I know it's your job to look at this decision objectively. And objectively, scenario A is the only option that would cause increased traffic through both crosswalks in front of altitude, which is at best an inconvenience and at worst a significant safety concern. Scenario A would also require adding additional bus routes, which increases costs to CCSD, which clearly from listening tonight would be detrimental. And while technically geographically closer to Woodland, Scenario A is still too far to walk, thereby not creating any sense of community or contiguous boundary with Woodland. Smoky Hill provides a divide for all options. However, choosing Scenario A would significantly decrease walkers to Altitude, greatly taking away from the concept of a neighborhood school that was stated as a priority in the guiding principles. For these reasons and more, I'm asking you to choose Scenario C as you vote tonight. I truly believe it's the best way to keep our walkers walking, the bus riders riding, the traffic to be minimally impacted, and the safety of the students to be the top priority. And while I know it's against the recommendation of administration, I, along with the community, when you look at the majority of the neighborhood vote, believe this to be the best long-term decision for our neighborhood. Thanks so much for your time.
Amy Zorns. When I was in 9th grade, I blurted a cuss word in my school hallway. Immediately, burly Mr. Mock came and snatched me up and marched me to the principal's office, where I was read several laws regarding reckless and disorderly conduct, much like Colorado's laws, which regard coarse and obviously offensive utterances, gestures, and displays in a public place, which is a misdemeanor. Month after month, you have heard that the community is not at peace about pornographic material that is in our schools. Leaders seem to be afraid to raise standards of conduct, fearful of offending or insulting people. In Colorado, it's illegal for adults to give anyone under 18 obscene material. Class 6 felony, 18 months behind bars, $100,000 fines, and the requirement to register as a sex offender. Allowing crude, vulgar, indecent, and obscene behavior and materials in our schools is not only illegal, but also lowers standards and widens the desire for furthering lower standards. Why should pornography and other indecent and obscene materials be available in public schools? Simply, they should not. Who's making these decisions? Their decisions are destructive to the quality of Cherry Creek schools, and they're corrupting our children. Raise the bar. Nobility rather than obscenity. Raise the bar. Virtue rather than indecency. Raise the bar. Please take action and remove crude pornographic material from our Cherry Creek schools and libraries. Raise the standard of decency. This action will solve many, many problems like we've heard tonight. Rise up, and thank you, Mr. Mock.
Hi, I'm Krista Coriel, and I'm the school director at Colorado Skies Academy. I just wanted to come and speak to you tonight to thank you for passing the approval authorizing us to submit a conversion application to Charter School Institute. On behalf of all of the families, learners, and parents and staff at our school, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We look forward to solving some of the problems that you brought up in our feedback. We took those very seriously and appreciate you listening to us.
Madeline Horn. Cherry Creek School Board isn't about conformity. We are about excellence. When we thought about building an elite mental health facility unlike any other in the country, we didn't say, nobody else is doing that, never mind. No, we decided to lead by example, and now we are supporting mental health in amazing new ways that are inspiring districts around the country. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about bathrooms. My daughters attend an unusual open concept school in the district. We have single-use bathrooms located inside grade-level classrooms. There is only ever one kid in the bathroom at a time, and they don't need to leave the classroom to go to a multi-stall bathroom down the hall. It's great, or it was great, until the bathrooms became a battlefield. See, our bathrooms had another characteristic that was special, like our school. Our bathrooms were genderless, just like your bathroom at home. Kids didn't have to wait for their particular bathroom stall to be open in order to go to the bathroom, then get back to learning.
Then Cherry Creek School District chose conformity instead of excellence. Now, boys have to wait for the boys' room, girls have to wait for the girls' room. Non-binary kids have to choose or go down the hall, leaving the room unlike any other child. Before, all kids had equitable access to bathrooms. Now they don't. The reason families were given was that Cherry Creek School District made the decision that because other schools in the district don't have genderless bathrooms, then ours couldn't either. Conformity. Cherry Creek School District told us that inclusivity is not the priority. I'm asking you to create a policy of genderless bathrooms where the building structures allow it. I'm not asking you to rebuild old schools. The funding isn't there. I'm asking you to lead by example like Cherry Creek School Districts do. To strive for excellence like Cherry Creek School Districts do. To do better when we can.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Hi, I'm Dana Kirchmar. I'm the secretary of the school board at Colorado Skies Academy. And on behalf of the entire board, we would like to thank the district for releasing us and giving us the opportunity to pursue our charter application with the Colorado Charter School Initiative. So thank you very much. Appreciate your consideration and your time.
Drew Patterson, Steve McKenna, Lori Christensen.
Hello, Drew Patterson. As is often stated, suicide rates have skyrocketed over the last 20 years, and much research has been done around the actual causation, with little consensus as to its root causes. But let us ponder for a moment what has also occurred over the last 20 years in Cherry Creek School District in terms of social programming. Social emotional wellness programs, signs of suicide programs, trans ideology, gender and sexuality clubs for children. Pervasive programming that disparages and shames children based on skin color, lowering the age of consent for medical and mental health treatment, a general derogation of parents and the supreme role of parents in the raising of their children. Add into this a volatile mix of dangerous and leading surveys directing student traffic to resources like the Trevor Space, which has been nicknamed by Gays Against Groomers as a pedophile playground, sexualized drag shows, etc. All of these ideologies and programs, many costing thousands of dollars, and yet the child suicide rate continues its upward trend. A recent study published by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that youth suicides declined during the summer when children were home from school. Once school starts again, suicide levels among children in school starts rising again. The trends are so clear that in parts of the country where the school year starts in August, suicide rates start climbing immediately in August. So the question can be answered as to what the problem is. The problem is you and the programming you put in place. You have disconnected children from the very anchors that have grounded them for thousands of years, family and parents, replacing these anchors with dangerous and harmful ideology that children are ill-prepared to consider.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Hello, I'm Steve McKenna, and I'm with Grandparents for Kids. We sent a letter earlier today to all the board members and to you, Superintendent Smith, that noted a growing number of academic and medical studies that are questioning the effectiveness of gender-affirming care, especially among children. We included with the letter another letter with links to nearly 100 studies by publications such as the Journal of Pediatrics and Psychology. I'm not asking that you read these 100 surveys, but I do think you should acknowledge that this body of work is out there before doubling down on prioritizing gender-affirming care and social transitioning, especially without telling parents. A recent survey by the Pew Research Center found that over 40% of teachers said debates over LGBT ideology, including sexual orientation and gender ideology, quote, have a negative impact on their ability to do their job, compared to only 4% who said this helped. The survey also found that a plurality of teachers and parents believes that parents should have the right to opt their children out of transgender ideology indoctrination. Just 1/3 of teachers believe that it should be compulsory. Moreover, a plurality of teenagers themselves reported not wanting to hear about LGBTQ ideology in the classroom. The Atlantic reported last year that in Finland, Sweden, France, and Norway, scientists and public health officials are warning that for many young people, interventions may do more harm than good. And a 2022 report by the Heritage Foundation found that easing access to cross-sex treatments without parental consent, in fact, significantly increased suicide rates. As educators, I'd ask you to please examine all sides of these important issues. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lori Christensen, and I'm here to speak about the boundary changes for Altitude Elementary. Scenario C meet many more of the guiding principles for the boundary changes. Those principles should be followed. In the community survey, 46% of the community stated that Scenario C should be relocated to Woodlands. This is the community talking directly to you about what is best for South Shore as we experience the safety concerns, the traffic, and it is our tax dollars that will be paying to bus students to Woodlands. More buses and drivers would be required if A were chosen, costing thousands of dollars each year that could be allocated for staff and resources at these schools. Scenario B and C also have the easiest access to get to Woodlands as they access Powhatan and East Smoky Hill. They do not have to pass through 3 altitude crosswalks to reach Woodlands. Scenario A is in the interior of South Shore if you've come to visit South Shore. Although Scenario A is the closest to Woodlands, this is by a bird's eye view, not by traveling distance to the school. Scenario A is also the closest to altitude, or one of the closest, I should say. We can see altitude from a park across the street from my house. Neighbors on Indoor back up to the district property and see altitude out their windows every day. The bus route that Scenario A would have to travel to avoid altitude traffic would be the longest of the 3 scenarios. Choosing Scenario C will reduce traffic as many students from A and B walk to school. My family and many others walk every day. Consideration for this decision should not be made on the fact that some students have been at altitude longer than others. You as the Board of Ed need to consider the long-range impact of each scenario to the community when making this decision. You need to base your decision tonight on the facts. It should be not based on the past recommendations or plans, as the situation now is different. The difference between the number of current students impacted between A and C are negligible, 6 students, and therefore should not be considered. Many children from A have just changed schools in the last few years. It would be disruptive to their education to have them change schools yet again. My children will be their 4th elementary school if we're forced to move. We moved to this.
Thank you. Your time is up. President Garland, that's all for tonight.
Thank you. I would like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda, resolutions 24.3.1 through 24.3.12.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen.
Aye.
Bates. Aye. Egan. Garland.
Aye.
Knowles.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to announce our next regular meeting on Monday, April 8th at 7 p.m., and it will be held at Campus Middle School, located at 4895 South Dayton Street in Greenwood Village, Colorado. I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn the March 11th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Allen.
Aye.
Bates. Egan. Garland.
Aye.
Knowles.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned.